Good morning. When I first came to Unitarian Universalism, I heard a phrase, assume good intentions. Assuming good intentions was something that I hadn't thought about much in my life. I guess I went through the early part of life growing up in the political shadow of Chicago. And having been around as a youngster in the 60s and 70s, I didn't always assume good intentions. You know, don't trust anyone over 30, as they used to say. So I didn't always assume good intentions, but I have always hoped for the best. At this stage of my life, I do try to assume good intentions. I have seen that included in many covenants through the years, covenants made in groups, congregational covenants, and various agreements between people. I think the meaning of assume good intentions is that we shouldn't immediately assume that people are angling for something, or that they're trying to manipulate us, or that they have some sort of hidden agenda. Assuming good intentions is living with the belief that people are inherently good, and although we are promise makers and promise breakers, we are also a promise renewing people. This is all well and good until I also, through being a Unitarian Universalist, learned from doing anti-racism, anti-oppression, and multicultural work that we can walk around with the best of intentions, but if we're not mindful, aware, and take responsibility for the impact of our actions, words, or behavior, we can have the best intentions in the world, but having good intentions doesn't really make the grade. Let me give you an example. It is a wonderful intention to be curious about someone who is different than we are. It is wonderful to learn new things. It is good to be observant and aware. So I am not self-conscious about being bald. I lost my hair a long time ago. And I love the feeling of a fresh shaved head, which I have today. So coming up to me and saying, you know, you really look good without hair. Now, I totally understand that that's supposed to be a compliment. I know that would be the intention. And because I'm fine with being bald, that phrasing probably wouldn't be problematic. But what if I struggled incredibly with my hair loss? Or if my hair loss was from an illness and was upsetting to me? That comment could have the best of intentions, but the impact of that comment could send me spinning. Of course, this is incredibly circumstantial and dependent on many individual factors, but it's meant to demonstrate the difference between one's intention and the potential that the intention doesn't always have the same impact. In the reading Intent versus Impact, Why Your Intentions Don't Really Matter by Jamie Utt, he says, from Paula Deen to Alec Baldwin, your annoying, bigoted uncle or friend, we hear it over and over again. I never meant any harm. It was never my intent. I'm not a racist. I'm not a homophobe. I'm not a sexist. I cannot tell you how often I've seen people attempt to deflect criticism about their oppressive language or actions by making the conversation about their intent. He goes on to say, at what point does the intent conversation stop mattering? So we can take a step back and look at the impact. After all, in the end, what does the intent of our action really matter if our actions have the impact of furthering the marginalization or oppression of those around us? In some ways, this is a simple lesson of relationships. If I say something that hurts my partner, it doesn't much matter whether I intended the statement that hurts my partner. It doesn't matter if I meant it in some other way, because my partner is hurting. I need to listen to how my language hurt my partner. I need to apologize. And then I need to reflect and empathize to the best of my ability so I don't do it again. But when we're dealing with the ways in which our identities intersect with those around us, and in turn the ways our privileges and our experiences of marginalization and oppression intersect, this lesson becomes something much larger and more profound. This becomes a lesson of justice. What we need to realize is that when it comes to people's lives and identities, the impact of our actions can be profound and wide-reaching, and that's far more important than the question of our intent. We need to ask ourselves, what might be or what might have been the impact of our action or our words? And we need to step back and listen when we're being told that the impact of our actions is out of step with our intents or our perceptions of self. Now, just like this quote in this article, I bet if I asked all of you to recount a time with your families, perhaps this past holiday season, a certain percentage would be able to express to me some cringe-worthy moments about this subject. I have to tell you, I have seen intent turn into cringe-worthy moments in UU congregations on more than one occasion. Efforts that without question were meant to be from a good place, but whose impact landed with a thud. One example that is often a told tale is that some of our congregations that skew to a more seasoned side of the age range, a young adult walks in with children and almost gets jumped on and held down with the welcome. And I've personally seen someone so happy that there was a family of color coming to visit. She turned with a great big grin with a joyous tone and yelled, "Is that a black family?" And I'm pretty sure that family never returned. A big part of all of this is not thinking of the world through our own framework, and that is the only way the world exists. I wonder how many of us look at people all the time and fill in the story based on how they are dressed, what car they are driving, how they speak, where they are from, the color of their skin, and many other factors. I know it happens because I do it all the time. I think in many ways it is built in. We have our frameworks, and no matter our intentions or the intentions of others, impact doesn't always hit the way we meant from our perspective. Now, I want to invite you into a little experiment at some point in time. Some point, pair off with someone sitting near you. Then I invite one of you to think of a situation. It could be frustrating or funny or sad. It could make you angry or happy or despondent. But after you think of that situation, try and use your face to reflect on how you are feeling. Now, the other person in the pair, I would invite them to try and use that visual clue to describe the emotion in the story that you are thinking about and that your face is telling. The results are always very interesting. New Year's resolutions are intentions. There are all kinds of resolutions that people make with the best of intentions. We resolve to work to get the vote out, to be more positive, to read more, to watch less TV, to do more hiking. We make these resolutions with the best of intent, not always thinking about how much change management it might take. Going to the gym is an enormous change of lifestyle if you aren't already going. You have to find the time, you have to think about travel time, you have to think about before work, after work, early in the morning, late at night. And this is true with eating less sugar, something I try to do because when your diet during the holidays is pretty much anything coated in chocolate, it takes some time to buy, prepare, and eat healthier things. We don't often take into account all the many things that may be impacting our changes of intention. That's part of the point. Our intentions, whether to eat healthier, to be kinder, or to be more accepting of others, to be welcoming to people no matter where they're from, no matter who they love. It all takes work that inevitably will lead to some changes that we will inevitably impact ourselves and others with these changes. And I have to say that understanding how our intentions impact others is an important theme for 2022. In a world in so much conflict, in a faith tradition trying to learn, grow, change, and provide a space of healing and love, in a global pandemic, it is impossible for us to be perfect and necessary for us to be more aware of the impact of our stories, actions, and intentions. Our reading author, Jamie Utt, says it this way: listen, reflect, apologize, and do better. It doesn't matter whether we deep down believe ourselves to be racist, or whether we intend our actions to be hurtful or sexist. It doesn't matter. If the impact of our actions is furthering oppression, then that's all that really matters. If the impact of our actions is such that we need to listen and reflect, apologize, and work to do better in the future, then that is what the impact calls for. What does that look like? Well, to start, we can actually apologize. I don't know about you, but I'm sick of hearing, "I'm sorry that your face got in the way of my Frisbee," an example that happened to me numerous times on the Frisbee field. "I never intended to hit you." Whether it's Paula Deen weeping on TV or Alec Baldwin asking us to simply trust that he's not a homophobe, those are not apologies. That's why I was incredibly inspired and relieved to see a major organization do it well when Kickstarter apologized and took full responsibility for their role in funding a creepy, rapey seduction guide. They apologized earnestly and accepted the role they played in something really terrible. They pledged to never allow projects like this to be funded in the future. And then they donated $25,000 to RAIN, the National Sexual Assault Hotline. And at the interpersonal level, we can take a clue from Kickstarter. When we're told that the impact of our action, inaction, or words are hurtful and further others' oppression, we can start by apologizing without any defensive caveats. From there, we can spend the time to reflect in hopes of gaining at least some understanding, however marginal, of the harmful impact. And we can do our best to move forward by acting more accountably. It is possible that there's no way we can know how our every action, no matter what the intention, will impact others. Which leads me to think maybe one of our most important set of resolutions this year is to be more open to not knowing, to listening, to reflecting, to not having to be right, something I talk about with myself and all of us in my congregation at least once a year, and to exchanging defensiveness for humility and openness to what may come. If New Year's resolutions were easy, we wouldn't have to make them each year. Remember, we are a promise-making and promise-breaking and promise-renewing people. And all we can do is to promise to do our best and to listen, reflect, apologize, apologize and do better. May that be so, and amen.